So the question really is the Chadpocalypse imminent? And what I mean by that is, are we reaching a peak in the dating marketplace where, unless you are a Chad, that is to say, unless you are well over 6 foot, because 6 foot's not enough anymore, you've got to be about 6'6", I think, and you're absolutely ripped and you are earning over 6 figures, and again, 6 figures pretty low these days, really, yeah, and you've got a bit of bad boy mystique or whatever, then you're going to have absolutely no hope of ever even losing your virginity, let alone finding a girlfriend or anything meaningful, and you will die loveless and alone. Okay, is that Chadpocalypse, is that sort of dystopian idea of the dating marketplace with us, or is it imminent? Well, obviously I don't think it is, because, well, it just doesn't really accord with my reality. I mean, look, I'm in Istanbul right now, walking around. The reality is, despite what people will say online, despite what some of the doomer black pill type people will say online, the truth is that actually there are plenty of very average looking guys with girls, and actually in some places you go, pretty average looking guys with very attractive looking girlfriends and wives and things. So, you know, the reality test doesn't really live up to the hype in terms of the Chadpocalypse quite yet. But how about this, right? Imagine if it is true. Imagine if all of the dystopian stuff you hear online is true, and actually it's becoming this terrible dystopian race to the bottom where the only people who are going to get any action at all are these complete gigachads, and everybody else is fighting around for the scraps. Well, if that was true, and maybe it's in your worldview it is true, what are you going to do about it? I mean, that is the key thing. Now, of course, the rhetoric online is, well, it's over, bro, so don't do anything, just sit around and moan about it and make YouTube channels and claim that other YouTubers are homosexual, and that's kind of that's kind of what you do with the rest of your life. Okay, well, there's that, but putting that to one side, because obviously that's pretty stupid, what are you actually going to do? And I think that one of the problems here, well, there's multiple problems here really, but one of the things is that guys don't help themselves. You know, guys don't help themselves, and they don't even put themselves into the best possible position for success, not even the best possible position for even likely success, right? In the course The Edge, we talk a lot about Machiavellianism. We talk about the dark triad, Machiavellianism, narcissism and psychopathy, but Machiavellianism is the one that gets probably, not within the course, but when people talk about this stuff in general, it gets slightly overlooked. But actually Machiavellianism really is knowing the game. Machiavelli, of course, being the famous writer who penned The Prince in order to teach his acolytes how to deal with the political machinations in Italy at the time. But really, in a colloquial sense, Machiavellianism is knowing the game and working the game in your favor to the best of your ability. Okay, and I don't think a lot of guys are even Machiavellian enough, because, like, for example, just a really, really obvious basic example of this is, if you want to have an abundant dating life, right, it makes sense to go somewhere where there's, I'll figure out which way we're going here. It makes sense to go somewhere where there's a lot of attractive women, or at least there's a lot of women, right? I mean, it just stands to reason, doesn't it? You don't need to be a genius to know that. Super busy around here, super busy restaurant. Very touristy. It's quite cool, actually. Yeah, so even the very basic, sort of very obvious thing of, are you going to go somewhere where there's a lot of potential women that you could meet? It's something that guys don't even seem to, either they don't think of it, or they do think of it, but they just sort of, they don't really do anything about it, or they don't have the gumption or the hunger, quite frankly, to make changes in their life. So we'll meet guys all the time who come to us and they're like, yeah, you know, I'm living in this tiny little town in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, and and I want to have this super cool, abundant dating life like I see on YouTube and everything, and how do I do it? And obviously the first thing we say is, well, can you move, or can you at least travel? And often you get this very half-hearted sort of response, like, yeah, well, I'm thinking about it, but I can't really, maybe in about 3 years I can maybe travel to the nearest town, and that's got 25,000 more people than this one. And it's like, come on, dude. Look, I mean, when I wanted to have a more successful social life, one of the first things I did was I plonked myself in the very biggest city that it was convenient for me to go and live in, which was London. Now, as it happens, from a career perspective as well, that makes sense, because obviously the bigger cities, you've got more opportunity. I was living in the north of England for a while, and I was living in a smaller city, Manchester, which also is a great city and has a lot of opportunities. But in the end, there's 500,000 people in Manchester, there's over 10 million people in London. From a career perspective, apart from anything else, it made sense to go to London. A lot of people, I'm not from Manchester, I actually moved north for a while and then came back down again, but a lot of people will move from the north of England to London just because it is more plentiful in terms of jobs, but also from a dating perspective. I mean, my dating life was transformed just by that very, very, very simple thing of getting on a train and moving my stuff a couple of 100 miles away. I mean, that was it. It wasn't that I did anything amazingly remarkable in terms of technique or whatever. I mean, I did start to learn about dating skills in a more structured way, and I started to learn some techniques and some things that you can do, and that, without a shadow of a doubt, that really helped. But equally or more important was the fact that I moved somewhere very busy, okay? And that, I wouldn't say that is on the sort of scale of Machiavellianism from naught to Boris Johnson or Dominic Cummings. I would say that's pretty low on the scale, really. I mean, moving to a place where there's more people is, we're not talking mastermind level Machiavellianism here, but it's a very simple thing. But I did it, all right. And yet there are so many guys that we deal with who don't even do that. Who don't even do this very, very basic thing. Now, take it another stage, you could say, well, okay, is there a way that I can go remote so that I can travel? Maybe I can go to different countries. Maybe I can go and live in a different country for a while. Or maybe, not even that, but I can go and live in one country for 1 quarter of the year, and then countries for the other, quarters of the year as well. Could you get introduced, or could you get a job, or could you get introduced into a certain social circle where you're likely to have more opportunities? Is there a way that you can restructure your working hours, or have some sort of an income whereby you've got more time during the day, or you've got more time to go on dates and things like this? I mean, there are so many different things that you could be doing, or one could be doing, in order to give oneself the best possible chance of success. The other thing is, travel, of course, we bang on about a lot, and it is very important, because you can put yourself into a place where you have more value than perhaps where you're from. So if I'm from London and then I go to certain other places in the world, I have more value as a dating prospect than I do in London. Okay, well, people will say online, oh, that's cheating, and all of that nonsense, but it really isn't. It just makes sense, again, to somewhat tilt the board in your favour, because as guys, obviously, in a large part, the board is tilted against us. The game is rigged somewhat against us. I don't want to be I'm not trying to be bitter about it, but it's just so many like stray kittens and things around here. The game is somewhat rigged against us, okay? So you might as well try to redress the balance. You might as well put yourself in a position or the place, geographically or psychologically, where you are most primed for success, okay? Is that high-grade Machiavellianism? Not really, it's sort of common sense. But what I find is, teaching this stuff and working with guys and counselling guys in this area, is that even these very basic things that you would have thought would be a bit of a no-brainer, they don't do. They don't particularly dress well. Maybe they go to the gym. A lot of people go to the gym now, which is great, but maybe they don't particularly dress well. They don't particularly groom themselves well. It's like, look, I mean, come on. You might as well be doing everything you can to up your score in all of the different conceivable levels. I mean, why not, right? You might as well score as highly as you can on each of the, you know, money, muscles, game, frame. You might as well score as highly on each of those as you can. Put yourself in that best possible position for success, okay? Nothing's guaranteed in life, where the hell we are. I mean, nothing's guaranteed in life. There's no sort of 100% guarantee that you're gonna have a certain outcome regardless of what you do, but you can certainly put yourself in a better position. And that sort of plays into this idea of Machiavellianism. I mean, it's not really Machiavellian, it's not like super manipulative or super sneaky or anything like that, but it is just looking out for your own interests and thinking, okay, so how can I best manage this situation, whatever it is, so that I can hopefully get kind of nearer to the things that I want to get to in my life. Anyway, with all of that being said, I'm now walking down some back streets in Istanbul. I'm not entirely sure where we're going, so I need to check the map, so I'm going to leave it for now. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Please do hit subscribe to the channel. Give me your thoughts on this. Is the Chadpocalypse imminent? Are we in the midst of the Chadpocalypse now? Is there any way out of the Chadpocalypse, or are we all screwed for eternity, and do we all have to do a dance of doom with wheat waffles around the campfire? Or actually, are things a lot more hopeful than perhaps the naysayers would have us believe? Let me know in the comments below. I'll see you guys again very soon. Bye-bye.